Hey there, welcome back to the channel, or as we like to call it, our little corner of the internet, which I love so very much. I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend and everyone's feeling great and ready for this week. I am not going to say for entertainment purposes only because I feel like you know that by now, but we are going to go ahead and get right to it. So let's go with our one little light, but that's all it takes, right? And go.
So this is part 2 of True Stories of Rites and Rituals. So I meet my mom for lunch today to make sure I've got all the facts before I tell the story. And the first thing she does is holds up a harmonica and says she's going to give it to me, and that this is the harmonica that she asked Jimmy Page to steal from his singer Robert Plant in an effort to prove that he loved her. So that's how lunch started. So the story I'm about to tell you is directly from my mother. She used to tell it to me all the time when I was a kid as a bedtime story, and this is how it goes. So Jimmy's band is becoming the biggest band in the world, and he's been transfixed with dark hermetic practitioner Aleister Crowley. He feels he owes a lot of his success to Crowley's teachings, so he decides to buy his abandoned, decrepit mansion. Now remember, this is the mansion that Crowley performed the hermetic rite to summon his guardian angel. If you remember, Crowley summons so many entities that he describes the house as being black shadows, no matter how much light he lets in. And then he leaves the house to go save his buddy in Paris. He does not shut the portal. He does not banish the entities. He leaves them there. Now remember, this property faces Loch Ness. My mother is convinced that the Loch Ness monster is one of these entities that Crowley summoned. Obviously, my mother had access to all of these people because of her status as a royal. The British monarchy are basically her cousins. So she could pretty much meet anybody she wanted to, get tickets to anything she wanted to see. Now she's grown up believing that her family has something to do with the reason Boleskine House is haunted in the first place. So she's determined to go there, and this is how she winds up meeting Jimmy Page. So one night she finds herself at the mansion. This is her first night there. She's in her room. She wakes up out of nowhere because she's freezing cold, which is odd because she was blazing a fire in there for most of the evening. She hears clawing at the door. She thinks immediately that it's Jimmy's black lab. Then she remembers that Jimmy has boarded the lab because he's about to go on tour. She looks down, and she now sees glowing red light coming from underneath the door. Through that, she sees steam, like it's so cold in the room, and this thing's breath is so hot that it's steaming from under the door. Her immediate thought is that these are the glowing red eyes of a hellhound. She's scared, so she doesn't get up and do anything. She's just sitting there watching. As she watches, the red light grows brighter. The movement of this entity gets so aggressive that as it slams its body up against the door, her bed is coming up off of the ground. Entity slams itself against the door. The bed jumps up in the air. She starts screaming. The door flings open, and there's the caretaker, Malcolm Dent. It's over. He comes in, holds her, asks her what's going on. She tells him what just happened, and he then tells her the same exact thing had just happened to Jimmy in that same room. The room in which Aleister had committed the rite. Now there's more. There's the story of how her family contributed to the original haunting of Boleskine House. There's a story that she tells that is very personal to me because it's so crazy and so disturbing about 2 rock stars summoning an entity and her witnessing that. It just goes on and on. I always say I share my experiences, and I hope you find it interesting. I love you guys. Peace, blessings, and shine on.
So, I am not sure if anybody has seen this person. He claims to be a 7th generation Illuminati family member. So, obviously, his 7 generations of his family has been involved in the Illuminati, according to what he says. This has been floating around the internet for a couple of months. I have hesitated to put any information up because it sounds so fantastical. However, I caved today because it keeps popping up and he tells really great stories, and I'm not sure if they're true, but things sound like they could be. And wouldn't it make sense that the Loch Ness monster actually came from one of the portals that Aleister Crowley opened? Wouldn't that make sense? I mean, that could happen. The house faces the, where Loch Ness is, so it's possible. I don't know. I mean, if we believe in CERN, we should believe in these sort of portals too. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with the magics of Aleister Crowley. I think that most of us would probably not even know the first thing to do with any of it, even if we had it right in front of us, because there are definitely elements to it that are kept secret. That's why it is what it is. I also think it's really dangerous to mess with, so don't. Is anyone familiar with Boleskine House? I am not very at all versed on that, but it sounds like another very interesting haunting type thing that we should look into. Yeah, so just let me know if you guys have heard of this guy or anything like that, because or if you believe it, or if you think it's just a bunch of hoopla. I'm not really sure. But I did think it was interesting. But so is this one. So this... So I'm just going to mute the video because there's really nothing happening here. There are 3 entities. This is from an amateur camera or an amateur telescope. Clearly, they're casting shadows right on the moon. And it's pretty amazing that this was caught. And people, of course, are going to say it's CGI. People are, of course, going to say whatever they're going to say. But I don't know if you've ever gotten a telescope and actually looked at the moon, but if you do it long enough, you will see some stuff that you're going to question. It looks like just a giant electrical highway up there, really. It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing, but I have not seen ships like this. Let's see it again. Just zoomed on in. Right there. See? You see them right there on the edge with the... I see 2 though. I don't see 3, but I mean, does that make it? Oh, the 3rd one's lower. And then they kind of just disappear into the ether. Who knows what that is? Now, do I think it's CGI or do I think it's real? I think you know what I think. I assume that many of you are going to feel the same, but there are definitely going to be people with some sort of explanation that, yeah, look at that. That's... But where does it go? Where does it go? Any theories? I would love to hear it. Let's go.
Unanswered questions after a 911 call in Pueblo from a funeral home and cemetery. August 11th, just before 3:30 in the morning, the police department communications center got a call that they refer to as abandoned, meaning the other person hung up. So they called back, got an answer, and heard mostly static. An officer was sent out to check out the funeral home and cemetery and says it was locked up and dark with no one in sight.
So that phone call that you just heard was coming from this funeral home and cemetery in Pueblo, Colorado. The call came in at 3:28 a.m. and when the dispatcher at the police station picked up the phone call, they listened, nobody said anything, and then the caller hung up. However, as you heard in that video, the police dispatcher then called the phone number back, and that's when they got that spooky voice. That is just one of the creepiest things I've ever heard, I do have to say. And that call and voice came from somebody or something within the cemetery gates. There's just something so eerie to me about stories of people receiving phone calls or text messages from their loved ones who have passed on, or even in this case, receiving a phone call from an empty funeral home and cemetery. It's completely unexplainable. To this day, there's been no explanation, and that audio recording haunts me.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that for sure. He mentioned that he feels a little weirded out by any sort of messages from beyond. I feel that I get messages from beyond. I'm not sure if anybody feels this way about dimes or if anybody's heard of this kind of, if you want to call it a superstition, but in my family, my entire life, I've heard about if a dime appears to you, it's your loved one trying to give you a message or showing you that they're present or something like that. So ever since we lost my grandpop, I find them all the time, to the extent that I started keeping a little box, and every time I found them, I would put them in there, and it's just full. It's just full. I've never found so many dimes in my entire life. And then I kind of didn't get any for a while, and then I found one the other day randomly in the middle of the night, and I was just like, grandpa's back. But another thing that happened is he used to make for Halloween these webs out of rope, these really, really cool ones, because he was in construction and he always had that white rope with him for construction stuff. And one day he just made them. And then he came up when I was in college to make one at where I lived. And it just kind of became a family thing. He started going around to all of our family members' houses to build these rope webs. And then we started finding big spiders to put in them. And it became our thing. And that's one of the holes that he left behind in our family, and my mom learned how to make them, and now she does it, and she makes these huge ones. And she was building one a couple of years ago, and her phone was on the ground, and she went to pick it up. She was thinking, you know, of course, I wish he was here to do this with me, or, you know, make it. And when she picked it up, it was a picture of my grandpa that was just on her phone, with something on his shirt, said something like, "I'm here," or something. She sent me the picture, and she was really kind of shaken about it at the time, which I definitely understand. But if you listen, they give you messages, whether it comes in the form of dimes or little things like that. I mean, people are around, and who knows what this phone call was, but it's not surprising to me that it happened just after 3 a.m. That's when all that stuff happens.
This is creepy. This comes from an unidentified person who was taking a live photo of a deer in their front yard. This. And that's when this face popped up behind them. There was nobody else in the house. But whatever it is, looks demonic. Take a look at this. Tell me what you see.
Yeah, their faces. Look at that. Yeah, those were faces. I'm not really sure how to explain it or what it could be. I mean, it could be some sort of reflection of something. They said they were alone in the house and they were just filming the deer out front, and that's what appeared. Whether, I can't really speak to it being demonic or not. I didn't necessarily get demon vibes, but it's definitely something that seems like they didn't realize was there.
People are freaking out after finding this. And yeah, it's 100% real. Of course, we all know Zelensky as the president of Ukraine, right? He did have a life before, and some people are just finding out about what he did before he was the president. Finding selfies and photos from his Instagram back before 2019. But the most shocking part is what he actually did before he was the president. This is pretty common knowledge. I don't know how some people didn't know this, but there's one video which is mental that I'll show you in a minute. So before taking up politics and becoming the president in 2019, he was actually a comedian and an actor. It's the videos like this that people are finding. Made comedy sketches, appeared in a few movies, and did all kinds of crazy things. The craziest ones is this right here. That's him. Take a watch. That's Putin in the crowd wetting himself at Zelensky's jokes. Like, they're just best mates. It's crazy that this is actually real, and people have just found all these videos now and are like, what? Now, he had no interest in politics, had never done it before, but randomly became the president in 2019 with his anti-corruption programs that he was putting forward and the demand for change that him and the citizens were wanting, so he managed to win by quite a large amount. And obviously since then, there's been a lot going on and he's still in the power. Still, seeing some of these videos is just mad.
So, I debated on putting this up because I don't want to make it like a weird political thing, but I do think it's a little odd. It's a little odd. I'm sure everybody already knew this about the acting and all of that kind of thing, but the fact, I mean, I can't really even say much because I feel like I'm gonna get censored for posting this, so I'm just gonna leave this here. I can't wait to hear if you guys want to say anything about it, but I'll just leave that right here. Weird. Let's leave it at weird. Like this. What? I've never seen this. I anticipate people saying it's not real, whatever, but it does seem a little authentic, although I doubt an entity would just be walking through a field with somebody with like a camera standing this close, but at the same time, it's a little believable, isn't it? I don't know. What do you think?
How can I help you?
This one is completely not about aliens or anything. This is just about the corruption of our healthcare here in America. And the more I hear about the way things are in other places, the more I'm just completely like blagged about it. So
I think there's a mistake on the bill, but maybe you could help me out. We got a bill, and then we realized that you guys didn't have our insurance, so we sent you the insurance, and it looks like the bill went up.
It went up?
Yeah, the first bill we got without the insurance was $600, and then the second one was almost $1,300.
Okay. Yeah, so that the first invoice you received, that's a discount that you receive if you're uninsured. So you're not eligible for the discount since you are insured. And so the bill was $2,342.14. We billed your insurance. Your insurance only paid $1,078.85.
Can I go back to the discount without the insurance?
No, sir, you're insured, so you're not eligible for the discount.
If I go cancel my insurance, am I eligible for the discount?
No, sir, because we checked eligibility and you do have active coverage for data service.
Oh, I needed to cancel it before I got the service to get the discount.
You're only eligible for the discount if you're uninsured.
Okay, so I'll get cheaper health care if I'm uninsured.
If you're uninsured, you're eligible for the discount, correct?
Is this common? Like you're in,
Yes.
I pay for insurance and I end up paying more out of pocket because I pay for a premium? That's wild.
No, this is a new law that passed or started 2024 AB 716, and the law is if you receive a discount if you're uninsured.
Okay.
So when we first send a invoice to the patient, we bill them as if they're uninsured. If you're insured, unfortunately, you're not eligible for the discount.
Okay, so just if I have the incentives straight here, if I want to pay less for medical care, I should cancel my insurance if my daughter needs life-saving medical care?
I'm not sure. I don't know, sir.
It's this.
You should cancel your insurance. I'm just letting you know that discount's only for patients who are uninsured.
Okay, that is special. That is a special law. So there's no way to put that discount onto an insured person. Only the uninsured people get that.
Correct.
Yep. Make that make sense. I had only listened to the first part of this before deciding that I was going to put it in, so I didn't realize it got even worse. So they submitted to the insurance, and the higher rate of $2,300. So the person received an invoice for $1,300, which was the remaining balance. When without insurance, they only had to pay $600. So now with insurance, because insurance only covered some, they are responsible for $1,300. And when they called to say, well, what if I cancel my insurance? Am I eligible? So now with insurance, you're paying more than you would have paid if you didn't have insurance at all. Tell me that's not the biggest scam that exists. It's definitely up there. Welcome. Where does this stuff end? Honest to God, where does it end? Because it doesn't make any sense. I was always under the impression that having insurance is what helps you, is what saves you. You need to get a job that has insurance. I once worked for a company and they paid for 100% of my insurance, and it was awesome. But But hearing things like this and just hearing how much worse it all seems to be getting, the healthcare system, and if somebody needs antibiotics, it's so expensive. Whereas you go over to Thailand and you can go into any pharmacy and be like, I want, and just like pick out your stuff, and they'll be like, here's a pack for $1, here's a pack for $1, and they'll give you all sorts of medicine that you have to go to your doctor. You have to play the insurance game. You have to pay out of pocket like tons of money. You have to convince your doctor that you need this medicine, and then you get it, and then you go to the pharmacy and you pay how much? I told you the story about the Jeep. The guy needed his medicine, his insulin, and he had to sell the Jeep to be able to pay. $3,000 was covering a month of his medicine. What is happening, and why we always, it just feels like we as a country need to step in all the time to help other people. When is somebody gonna step in to help us? Because we seem to be the ones with the problems here. That's all I'm gonna say. Because it's time for the good clip, and I totally forgot to add it in. So just give me 1 second, because it's really, really, really precious. I
relive it a million times, and what if he wouldn't have been in there with me? I'd be dead today. That's it.
But Ron Williams is alive and with quite a tale to tell. The main character is his pet cat, Fluffy.
That's a boy.
Ron adopted Fluffy from a friend not too long ago.
And I looked at him and I just fell in love with him.
Williams, who turns 85 in September, didn't know that a few weeks after he got him, Fluffy would save his life. We all talk to our pets, and that's how this story starts.
The phone would ring, and I'd say, ring-a-ding, ring-a-ding, and I didn't know he'd pick up on it.
Thank goodness Fluffy did. A few days ago, Ron slipped getting out of the shower. With his life alert on the charger, his phone up on the counter, and the door closed, Ron was trapped.
My arm was pinned under me, and the hours kept going by.
For 16 hours, from 8 in the morning until midnight, Ron lay trapped in agony on the floor. Until he remembered, Fluffy was in the room too, and Ron took one crazy last chance to save his life.
So I said, Fluffy, ring-a-ding, Fluffy. And I says, you're my only hope. And he was. It wasn't even 5 minutes later, I felt something hit my hand. And I'm here because of it.
How amazingly incredible. Fluffy seems like quite a kitten. And just the fact that when the phone would ring and he says ring-a-ding and the cat understands that that's the phone, never has brought the phone to him before. But in this moment of need, this cat instinctually knew. And no one is going to convince me that this guy didn't get this cat for this purpose, to save his life and tell this story. There is absolutely no thing or person that could convince me otherwise. So I am so glad that this guy is here. I'm so glad that he and Fluffy have each other, and I hope to have each other for so many, many years. And I just hope people start learning that animals really have amazing abilities and instincts, and it's amazing. So I just want to leave you with that happy clip, and I hope everyone, as I said, had a fantastic weekend, and I hope your Monday goes well, and I will talk to you later. See ya. Signing off.